Life status update. All the housework is done and I am still a wreck, but I do have time to talk a little bit of toy. And by little bit, I mean a basic class Beast Machines figure. This is Night Viper, one of the more unusual and yet anticipated figures, because Beast Wars, and even if it is just the sequel series, finally got a snake in the US. I'm kind of surprised they did it at the basic size. I mean, we've already taken a look at Kurata on Random Review, and even Takara had a little bit of trouble working in some of its elements at the deluxe size. So what can you do at the basic? Well, as you can see, they also went with the much bulkier Cobra look, though they actually it's a commendable job. It's a commendable job, but they did have to kind of bulk out the snake quite a bit more. I guess that's where Beast Machines really comes in handy here, where you can play a little bit more with the realism of the design, in that you can make it not realistic at all. But you can see, yeah, a lot of him is just crammed in there. But hey, it is what it is, and it for a basic, it doesn't look terrible. To give you a close up of the head, you can see he's got this nice kind of bronze red color going on, very metallic, very nice. A little bit of black and going very well here in with the blue. I actually really like this color combination, though it is a little bit odd. Well, it's a little bit odd of a toy, so what can you expect? There's a lot of different colors mixing around to create the head. It does give off something of an organic snake look when you've got so many different colors swirling around each other like that. It's kind of interesting, and yet lots of mechanical molding and sculpting going on. It's all very, very cool. I do like this. You can see the belly here, which, okay, kind of lips out a little bit. Ignore that. We'll go instead to the back, where we see more of that bronze paint, which looks quite cool in this. I do like how they decoed the toy. Also, we have a little hatch here. If we flip that open, we can see the Maximal Spark Crystal within, tinted green. This is the day when reptiles could, yes, be Maximals. They didn't just have to be limited to furry or aquatic animals. It's kind of weird that way. So, yeah, the rest of the body is, of course, the tail of the snake, which is pretty uniform in size all the way through, and giving a little bit more color there at the tip. But for the most part, it's just black plastic. And yeah, the tip looks suspiciously like the belly, doesn't it? But hey, that's just how it goes. So yeah, they didn't do too bad of a job here. It's a commendable attempt to get a small figure to actually look like a Cobra. And the nice benefit of the bulk is that it doesn't rely on the tail in order to pose the way Kurata does. It's going to be completely hinged up. Well, I was gonna say that, but I think at least a little bit of the tail has to be down in order for him to still stand. But you can still do a lot with the tail and still have a stable snake to display on your desk table or wherever you happen to keep toys. It's your business, not mine. You will notice a big piece of translucent yellow there at the top, and you might wonder what that does. Well, if I hit that piece of translucent, you get a little bit of a snake striking action. Though, you know, a Predacon has to be, or a Viacon, I should say, has to be real close to get it to actually hit something. It's more just like a biting strike action thing more than anything, because it doesn't really jut out far enough or go at a good angle for an actual strike, but it does reveal some other painted details. You can see the translucent yellow underneath, that's where all the eyes and the head come from, and the tongue, of course, painted pink. So you do get some added detail doing this, and I do like that even if the head does not strike very far, at least the mouth does open and gives it a little bit of effect. So that's not a terrible thing. So that's the beast mode. Well, I could show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ball joints of articulation in the tail, plenty of range, as well as a couple extra hinges up here. But yeah, so hey, it actually works like a snake. Good on you. All right, let's transform him, because man, this guy's got an interesting transformation. Aside from the fact that, well, most of it just kind of opens up, but hey, it is what it is. You'll see what I mean. It's interesting. I'm going to hinge these pieces up like so, and that way we have big bulky arm attachments, but we'll talk about that when the time is appropriate. I'm going to flip this up, and that lets the head rotate. And well, I'm doing this completely off frame. I apologize for that. Sometimes it's hard to remember where the camera is. So yeah, we got the head that will flip up from there. Fold that cobra head down, and that creates the back. Okay, so we got the sides of the cobra head here, top of the cobra head here. That leaves the rest of the snake, which, here's the interesting part. This whole thing is going to pass through his pelvis piece all the way to this midpoint, which snaps closed again, and that gives us our legs. That is probably the biggest step up I could give this from its original, from the original Snake Transformer of Kurata, because that is a really neat and clever and effective way of dealing with the tail, rather than just creating a whip arm effect. Rotate all these parts so the legs look a little bit more solid. There we go. And that is going to give us Night Viper in robot mode. Now I'll have to adjust the frame a little bit because he is quite the tall little guy for a basic size figure. As you can see, as you would expect, very svelte, very thin all around, creating this rather creepy vestige for a Maximal. But hey, it's a snake. It kind of works. Here's the close-up of the head, also very snake-like. This guy could have been like right at home in like a Transformer G.I. Joe crossover as either a Serpentor or a mutated Cobra Commander. It's all pretty much snake all the time, no matter what mode he is in. It's only vaguely robotic because of the molding, but it's not a bad job at all. We can see some new detail here. The chest paint with the red and the yellow, now far more prominent and looking quite good. Now, proportionally, aside from just being thin, he does have some weird tendencies. For instance, his shoulders are actually higher than his neck. It's a little bit bizarre, and it gives him this really weird hunched look. And then we also have the ball joints that are cut this way, which means he's on bicep curling arms only. Not to mention huge pieces of snake. Like, this is one of the things that kind of baffled me about the toy, whereas I don't know. Takara, I think, with Kurata did a little bit better handling that. I mean, the reason you use a Cobra is so you have more bulk to work with when you're creating a Snake Transformer. And this just kind of comes off as, well, we didn't really have an idea how to use it. Use it for the arms. Use it to bulk out the chest. Something. Anything. I don't know. It just kind of feels a little bit of a waste. As we can see, the colors did balance out. The chest, or the belly of the snake, as well as the tip of the tail, do work off to create the legs, working quite nice. And by the way, there is no way of screwing up which leg goes where, because only one leg has that little plug that goes into the pelvis piece. So you can't really mistransform it that way. All around, it is a unique figure. It does look quite good, and even though it does have some weird little foibles here and there, it could be very much your thing. It's all up to personal preference here. For articulation, the head is ball jointed, so it can move backwards as well as rotating left and right, though it's a little bit restricted because of his high torso. These high up ball joints do give it a great range of motion and articulation with no interruptions. Ball joints at the elbows, so the elbows do rotate. They do bend at the inside, so unfortunately they just kind of curl. The waist, fully rotation, 360 degrees. Ball joints at the hips, ball joints in the middle of the thighs, but that works better as a thigh swivel. Knees fully ball jointed, all of that. There's a hinge here, but that's for the tail, so that just looks like his leg is broken. And then you have the hinge here at the foot as well as the heel there for balance. Exceptionally good poseability on this toy. If the wrists rotated, or if the arms were not so unfortunately cut at the ball joint, this would be an exceptional figure with really no fault in the articulation whatsoever. And aside from that, what can we do? Well, he still has the spark crystal on that side we can access, but on this side, for the added bit of accessory and weaponry, he has kind of a stinger thing. So we rotate that forward, and we get this kind of blade that hangs off of his arm, and it's I don't know, it's a kind of a funny little accessory. You can work around with the hinge here and the ball joint and position it however you like. Either way, it's a little bit strange. Like, this is where, yeah, it looks like they were trying to use that bulk to give him a bit of accessory going, a bit of weaponry, but it feels tacked on, I think. I feel like this bulk could have been used for something a little bit better, and that way he wouldn't just be stuck with these giant pieces of snake hanging off of his arm. It's really weird to see a basic class, a small size figure that's usually struggling to get its size to work for it, to get everything into such a compact shape, have such huge pieces of kibble hanging off of it. But, well. So that is Beast Machine's Night Viper. It is very interesting as a figure. The engineering on it is extremely clever. And then there's these parts that are extremely not clever. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think the unique aesthetic, the good color scheme, as well as how articulated he is for his size, makes up for the occasional misfire here and there with how the toy was ultimately engineered. I still really like it. It's still unique. And hey, this means I have now covered every snake transformer that exists that I know of. There's probably a Japanese Micron or something that I'm forgetting about. But hey, at least for full-size figures, I'm 2 for 2 on snake transformers. I call that a win.